And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast. We appreciate y'all for joining us here on this Wednesday evening, or if it's one of your favorite places to catch podcasts later on in the week. We are rounding out towards the end of May. Memorial Day weekend is right around the corner. We got ourselves a lot to talk about. As DJ joined as always by my co-host Kelsey. And Kelsey, we got a long range of topics to get into, but before we get into all the fun, we'll take a quick moment to say RIP to the Indianapolis Colts family. Jim Irsay passing away not even like an hour before we started recording at this point too, just recently, from voting in the league owners meetings to cheering on the Pacers earlier today. And then the unfortunate news that he has passed on. Not sure who's taking over the team yet. I believe it's staying in the family, probably can go to his daughters, but heartfelt loss for in Indianapolis right before the playoff game as well for the Pacers. So hearts go out to that Indianapolis Colts fan.
Yeah, we've joked about Jim Irsay a lot, but honestly, when you talk about owners, there's not been many better for a longer term. He's had his own problems, but within the family that the Colts are, within the players, and they respect him, and that tells you a lot. When the players and fans can respect an owner, that means a lot. So yeah, it's a heavy loss.
You could tell it was purely love of the game too, because his entire career was basically Indianapolis Colts owner. It wasn't oil money that turned into something else, or just a lot of money
Yeah.
that turns into something else. It was literally just love of the game as an owner, as his career through and through. So hearts go out to them as well. We're gonna be talking Indianapolis today, but not necessarily as much directed to the Colts as they do have a big playoff game. So we're gonna be talking about that among some other things, which probably as good a time as any to take us into the first part of the show, and that is of course the tip off brought to our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code BellyWithSports for $20 off your first purchase, whether it's concert, comedy shows, anything that requires tickets. Go and use SeatGeek and $20 off your first order. And we're going to do just that. We're going to start in the NBA. Conference finals are underway. The final four of the NBA is here. We have seen the West get started with Oklahoma City and Minnesota Timberwolves with a second half rout by Oklahoma City. And tonight we'll be seeing the Indiana Pacers take on New York Knicks, a rivalry as good as golden and as old as time and as controversial as ever, especially with Reggie Miller calling every single game of that series. So, Kelsey, what do we expect to see in this series, commentary aside?
Oh, I was gonna say that was my first thing. Is
Or
at some
commentary
point in
first and
time,
foremost, then.
so at some point in time, we're gonna see Spike and Reggie have some words before, during, or after the game. But no, in the game, I think this is very interesting. This sets up a very intriguing storyline on one side. As you said, this is a rivalry in the playoffs specifically, because of what Reggie Miller did to this Knicks franchise, ripped their hearts out like nobody's ever done before. Well, there just happens to be the same kind of guy on the Pacers sideline yet again, who's done it many a times, who I still wish was a Sacramento King, in Tyrese Halliburton, who is one of the best late game closers currently in the game. Whether people want to admit it or not, he is one of the best young closers in the game. Another one in the Western Conference Finals. And a guy I won't call a young closer because he is 28 and he is the elder statesman of the superstars being shown on the graphic for the NBA Conference Finals. And that's Jalen Brunson on the other side. Jalen Brunson's been absolutely fantastic along with Cat. These guys are looking for a title. They're seeking that opportunity. Jalen's looking to become that guy that goes high school, college, pros, winning championships. That doesn't happen often. Cat is looking to recover the thing that got him drafted out of Kentucky as such a high pick. He's trying to recover that same sort of clout, I guess you can say, or that same sort of legacy on the other side for the Knicks. And the Knicks in general, this is kind of a make or break for that franchise right now. They look to be in a good spot, but if it doesn't go well in the conference finals and it just blows up, do they blow up the team? There's a lot of money there. That's a big question. Obviously, they made a lot of big moves to get here. It seems crazy to think that, but let's say Knicks ownership has never thought otherwise. If it's quick trigger pulls, but the Pacers, man, they look really good. They have looked really good top to bottom. 6, 7, 8, 9 men deep at times. TJ McConnell is the 9th man, and he's just as good as a 6th man on most teams. Just as good as a starting 5 for some teams. As a point guard, it's the Pacers are a talented team, top to bottom. The Knicks, on the other hand, they're not going to go away at any point in time, and so it's going to be a lot of fight back and forth, and it's going to be fun, I think, at the end of the day.
I'm excited because you also have two teams that are they don't really destroy very often, minus game 4 in the Cavs series for the Pacers, but more often than not, the games are relatively close when all things are created equal. And you have arguably the two leading clutch players in the NBA right now, Jalen Brunson, voted clutch player of the year, and Tyrese Halliburton, who is 10 of 11 for clutch shots on the season.
Yeah.
Not free throws, just clutch shots. Granted, much smaller sample size where Jalen Brunson's at, like, 33 or something like that compared to 11. But you're still 10 out of 11. You can miss 20 in a row and you're still sitting semi-decently, honestly, at this
Remember, LeBron at one point in time was 2 of 6 in a season, and everybody said he couldn't close games. So
exactly, which is how absolutely insane this is. If it gets down to those nitty-gritty moments, Halliburton has the ball, Brunson has the ball, how do the teams adjust to that? Does Halliburton's known as his passing, so do the Knicks swarm him so he can't go 11 of 12? But then you're leaving Nembhard or Miles Turner wide open? And if you're the Pacers, do you swarm Jalen Brunson, who, for all intents and purposes, can make any difficult shot, is very adept at getting fouled at any circumstance, or he can also make those plays, and you're leaving Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, all those other guys open. So in these games, when they get to those nitty-gritty clutch moments, I'm excited to see that. And because I say that every single game's gonna be a 30-point ass whooping just because I said that, we won't see it once. It'll still go 7 games, but not one of them will be close just to spite us. Or
I
it'll
don't.
be the 2016 finals where they're all ass whoopings until game 7. Then we'll get that final 60 seconds I've been begging.
I was gonna say I don't think we're gonna get Game 7 repeats out of what we just saw in the last round, where Game 7 was an absolute blowout every game. I think this series is gonna be one that's it's gonna be a fun one to watch. I think they're gonna go back and forth a lot. You might get 1 or 2 that are gonna be like 15-point games. I don't think you're gonna get much more than 15. You might get a 20-point game, but that's just gonna be like one. That's not gonna be 5 or 4 games. Like there's no way. There's no way that could happen, right? That's just seems crazy.
Knocking on hypothetical wood here, but
Yeah.
I do think they're going to be wars where I don't think they're gonna be completely one-sided like what we saw in game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where after a competitive first quarter and really first half, SGA kinda took over, for lack of better terms, from the free throw line as the Thunder, led by their absolutely outstanding defense. We're gonna put that first and foremost. That is the best defense in basketball in 2 decades, honestly, the way they swarm the ball, the way they get after it. But my goodness, the unfortunate highlight of the game was that Shae Gilgeous-Alexander's trip to the free throw lines. Great game by the Thunder. We all know that they're the best team in basketball and have been since November. But my goodness, some of those fouls were just painful to watch lead to free throws. I'm gonna say that the headline here is a little bit dramatic here, where they foul merchant flopping Goober. He's not to the same level of when we saw James Harden flippantly doing it a few years ago. I'm not gonna go Manu Ginobili, who looked like he got whiplash, and yet he was not afraid to punch a bat out of midair. But as soon as a gust of wind came by, he was flailing. It wasn't like those early 2010s LeBron where we'd see him look like he got in a car crash. Not to that extent. He's in the same category as Jalen Brunson right now, where he's definitely baiting a lot of these fouls when you get in the paint. If it's not a wide open pull up, he's looking for contact. It's I'm not gonna lie, I hate watching. I absolutely hate it. I hate watching it. I hate it so much. But because he could still average 28 points a game without it. He doesn't need to do
Yeah.
it. He's so darn good, and he's gonna be the MVP if he hasn't already been announced yet. I
He
guess he
wasn't.
has.
He was announced today.
That's true. Shams did kind of break it early. I think they're gonna try and announce it at the game, but you know what? Either way, we all knew it was gonna happen. I hate watching it so much because he's so darn good when he's not looking for it. But then when you're looking for it, it just gets painful. And that's where the officiating in the playoffs has been weird because historically, they let you fight in the playoffs a little bit. Oklahoma City on defense has been fighting this playoffs. You saw what Alex Caruso's doing to Jokic in last series. He was fighting that grown tower in the paint. But then you look at SGA and he makes a goofy face and flails. We've seen the screenshots. We all watched the game. It's not very pretty. And we saw Jalen Brunson get 5 fouls in a quarter. So I hope this doesn't continue. He's still a top 5 for player in the game, MVP, first team, all of that. But my goodness, that was especially because he started 2 of 13 and finished 10 of 27, but still got you 31 points. I'm not gonna say he's a foul merchant flopping goober, but that was not his best display. That's what I'll leave it at that. That was not his best display considering how good he really can be.
You know what's crazy about this is this would be a non-story if he just didn't make 11 out of 14. It would be an absolutely non-story because OKC has 26 free throw attempts last night. He makes 14 of them, or he has 14 of them. The Timberwolves had 83 free throw attempts. No, sorry, that's field goals made. My bad. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Hold on.
21 free throws attempted.
Okay, I was like, hold on.
Much less
now.
dramatic. But I mean,
like-
Ant was still at the free throw line 7 times, and Julius Randle was at the 6 times. It's stupid. NBA has a thing where it scrolls separately on each box score, doesn't scroll together, which is what I thought I was doing. I was blown away by that. Anyways, you have two guys that give you 13 free throws, and combined, they shoot the same percentage versus SGA being the only guy really shooting free throws on the other end, and he just goes 11 for 14. So it's like, I don't know. I have a hard time saying like he's a foul merchant, but I think we've come to accept that this is part of the game today, that flopping is an unnecessary evil. They're supposed to call it. The referees are supposed to call the flopping fouls and send it the other way. I think I've seen two at all this season, maybe 3 times where it's happened. It's like, I don't know. So I can't blame SGA for doing what he does. I mean, honestly, he's so long and lanky, and he doesn't weigh a whole lot, so he does get blown over by a heavy wind. That doesn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I mean, no, I think OKC, what they were able to do in this game was impressive. You take away the 14 free throws, OKC still wins.
They routed if SGA doesn't play, honestly. I don't even think he needs to play with how that second half went.
They still have a 13-point victory without SGA shooting free throws. With SGA, if you just pull SGA out of the team, he is 31 points
plus 9 assists, so that would probably accumulate like 55 points though. Yeah. So maybe that might be a little extreme, but
yeah. So I mean, don't pull him out, but 31 points though. You take the 31 points, he doesn't score, you still beat him.
Exactly.
Like that by another 7 points, I believe, is what it is. So it's like, it's not the worst thing in the world. Game. No, it's not the worst thing in the world, but like, yeah, I have a hard time when there are much more egregious flops that we've seen recently, very recently, that are also making headlines that are way worse, that are getting applauded, versus this one is like, oh yeah, he's a flop merchant, which I'm not going to say I agree with flopping. I really hate it. I've talked about it 1,001 times. When I see Rudy Gobert flopping, I want to punch something. It's no 7-foot man should flop that much. But yeah, I mean, like, it is part of the game today. We just learned to accept it. Point guards especially flop like crazy. Jalen Brunson, James Harden was the worst offender of all of these guys.
Worst of them all.
You know, those pull through moves, thank God they got semi adjusted. They seem to be coming back yet again. Now you got the run-ins. You know, the I'm gonna crash into the lane out of control and somebody's just gonna touch my arm and I'm gonna flail. Like, that's gonna get me a foul. So it sucks, but you know, it's part of the game. You gotta learn to accept it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with the bottom line, but I get where the bottom line's coming from. I don't love it, but he's the least of my concerns currently in the world of basketball for flopping.
I will say he spends so much time in the paint too, so he gets a lot more opportunities to get fouled where he's going to get more innately. I think it's just some of the ones you see with the eye test where it's like, shit, you are at 32 points per game MVP. That did not knock you over, sir. You did not get knocked over by that gust of wind. It is a closed dome. And on top of it, he's, like I said, not the worst offender. James Harden a few years ago, it was so bad they changed the rules and it took him a year and a half to basically get his game back because it was so dependent on it. We've seen Jalen Brunson still does it innately well too. It's very weird. What I think also makes it even more standout here is because they're so good defensively where they toe that line of over physicality on the other end. Then you come to the other side and it's like, well, okay, that guy got jumped on the other end. Over here, you got looked at funny and got passed gas on and suddenly you're shooting free throws. Like, we got split the difference. But I get it. I saw the joke of Alex Caruso versus Shae Gilgeous-Alexander, who breaks first. You saw how much Alex Caruso and Nikola Jokic were throwing down in the paint a little bit. So that's, but I agree. Not a flopping goober, but at the same time, he does enjoy that. He does enjoy those opportunities. If he can see it, if you give him an inch, he will take a mile.
Yeah, if SGA was built differently, it's a different conversation. I think he gets less of these, but because he's built so thin and so long, like, he has really long arms and he has really long legs. When he's so thin, it's obvious. It's a lot like Chet Holmgren, except for he's not 7 feet tall. He's 6'5", but he's still built nearly identical. It's just you shrunk Chet Holmgren in the same like percentages, and between those two, I mean, they look like they got hit. They look like they got crushed, and that's the hardest part. Is sometimes you can't tell if they're flopping or if they're getting crushed. As a referee, it's like you don't know. So that's why he probably gets a few more than, let's say, even Jalen Brunson gets. I mean, we just thrown in Jalen in there, who is the same does the same stuff. But he doesn't get near as many because he's shorter, more compact. He doesn't look like his body's flailing at any time. And Shae is also really smooth, and I think that's what makes it even worse, is he's so smooth that it's just like, okay, he flails a little bit, something happened. Like something had to have happened. That's maybe what the refs are looking at. I think the refs are better. They're not NFL refs, that's for sure. So they are better than that. But it's at the same time. Like I would love to cut it out, but you know what? We got to live with it for now.
You know what? That's the problem. Is he knows he's smooth, so he knows he can flail, and he's going to get away with it. He's the kid that he's like, wow, I can get away with stealing cookies for breakfast, and then they keep doing it until you smack him on the hand. He's a smooth criminal to stealing those free throws. But
Hey, he got an MVP out of it, so good for him.
and not hating, he's probably about to win a Finals MVP coming up as well too, depending on how the rest of this series goes. But
I
if
don't
they're
know.
going to play like they did Game 1, and if
That
Minnesota's going to shoot 53 pointers out of their 83 field goal attempts,
that is wild still.
that's probably not going to get it done necessarily, especially against a team like OKC, who you miss, they're at the other end dunking in like
And
3.5 seconds.
can we talk about Chet Holmgren defensively for a second?
Outstanding.
Okay, he's been a decent rim protector in college and going up, but like I wasn't expecting him to be as good with his hands considering how long and lanky he is. But he is phenomenal when healthy with his hands on the ball. And that's what's crazy to think about with him, with how long and lanky he is. We've seen it with Kristaps. We've seen it with other bigger, longer defenders. They don't always move the best at the three-point line. He's matching up against guards and pickpocketing them like it's no big deal. Like if he gets a badge like NBA 2K, he's getting that nice silver to gold pickpocket badge. And it's just like, what is happening here? This guy has been injured. Everybody is literally, they're actually putting him in trade conversations right now. And I'm like, hold up. This dude is fresh off the draft. If we're talking about trade conversation right now, it better be for a worldie, not some random people. But like, this is wild. I was not expecting him to be this good defensively.
He's very unique in that I think bringing in a Hartstein was the best thing they could do because Hartstein can bang down low with the other guys, and Holmgren can literally just play like the most ridiculous free safety ever at points. Like he's technically guarding someone, but he can switch, like you mentioned, good enough foot speed and the length. And as a help defender, it's a flying pterodactyl from Jurassic Park. And I'm talking about the first one, not the most recent ones, coming out of nowhere to completely eliminate it. And you mentioned the ability to pickpocket with those long arms, and he understands how to play in space. You could tell he wasn't always a 7'2" center. He's kind of like how Anthony Davis went from the guard to the giant power forward / center. And you can see a lot of his game is similar, where he's been so skinny and he was able to shoot coming out. He was a very versatile center. He's just not fleet of foot, but he can move just enough with his length. And part of the reason they are so good defensively is because of him and among others. And Luke Dort, obviously.
Everybody forgets he locked up Steph in their one-on-one pro-am when he was in high school. Like the dude was I think he was 6'7", 6'8" at the time. Which he has the edge on Steph, but like still long and lanky and skinny as a twig. The kid was still matching up really well with Steph at a rate where you wouldn't expect it from a high school. And I think that was when he was like a sophomore or junior. He wasn't fully Chet Holmgren at that point in time, but that's where he really burst onto the scene. And now it's like, all right, hold up.
As his offensive game refines, I think that him and Shae are going to be a very dangerous duel for a long time. This could be I don't want to say a dynasty in the making because we throw that thing around way too much, considering we're about to have 7 different champions in 7 consecutive years. So we're not going to jump any guns like that, but there's a lot of makings for them to be very competitive and very dangerous for a very, very long time, even after they get paid. Like Shae's about to get himself a really thick bag for that Supermax now that he has an MVP on the mantle as well. Speaking of getting paid too, we're in transition from the hardwood to the gridiron as the money is flowing in San Francisco as Brock Purdy gets paid plentifully, signing a massive deal. We're going to go and take just a look at some of the numbers here. You see in some of the years. Overall, he's going to be making about, let me see if I find it, $270 million contract. You see signing bonus, 40 million, guaranteed just under 60 million. Then you see like roster game bonuses, 4 million, option 72 million. Point is he's getting paid, and a lot of it you get in some of those bonuses. He's getting back paid too. Like, we appreciate you playing for nickels and pennies. Take this giant bonus here.
I am so offended. This man gets $500,000 as a workout bonus through the life of his career. And somebody pay me $100,000 a year. I'll go work out every single day, 3 times a day. What is going on? Why are we giving this guy a workout bonus? What?
That's their way of saying, you know what? Thanks for taking $10 a year for the last 2 years. Here's a little bit of prorate.
Dude, I was excited to get a $2 raise in my life. This man is getting $100,000 just to show up to the off-season workouts.
I do want to point out too, as we look at it here, Next year, only a cap hit of 9 million, then 24, then 30. So those next few years, not a huge cap hit. It's
Wow.
2028 where you see 57 million. Then in 2029, 72, before being 64 million, and then 31, a potential void year at 11 million. So they're banking on that 28, 29 with the new TV deal cap spike that's expected to hit. They're like, all right, you're gonna get paid plenty, Brock, but right here is where you're gonna make all of your money. And at quarterback, we expect you to still be awfully good at that age because you'll be 30 at that age. You'll be a ripe 30. So unless you fall off the cliff by that point, they feel pretty comfortable with it, which smart job because right now you have all the older players you have to pay, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, if you're able to keep them, Bosa, etc. So it's a very, I'm not say team friendly, but it's a deal that is friendly for the team as well as Brock is now the fifth highest paid quarterback in the NFL, fifth or sixth, which considering some of the guys, that have gotten paid more than him recently, that's a pretty good deal on their part too. They didn't have to give him Trevor Lawrence money, who was the highest paid quarterback, or Jordan Love, who hit the highest paid quarterback after 8 games. Tua, who is the highest paid quarterback, who had finished 1 season. Like, you're the 49ers, you're pretty content with this. And you know who else is incredibly content with this? Baker Mayfield, because he's looking at this like, "I'm next," because he's still coming off that short 2 or 3-year deal. He's probably like, "I would like a pay raise now too, please." And there's you can kind of somewhat comparable them a little bit as far as where they stand in the NFL quarterback hierarchy. So Baker could be like, "Can I get what he's having, please?" Or at least most of that. So he's probably a pretty happy man too, since they're in comparable situations as far as getting paid next.
Yeah, this is. I mean, we talked about this when this came out a couple of or a couple months back. The new rating system that's going to be used by Nielsen and how that could impact TV deals. I feel like this contract is weighted for that. As you mentioned, that 28, 29-year-old year, the 2028, 2029 year, that feels weighted towards the new TV deals where you're going to have streams included. You're going to have the alternative medias included. And that opens up so much more money potentials for these teams. And I think it's like almost underrated how much money they could potentially have flowing in those years. When you look at this contract, I mean, we talked about this when we first started the podcast over 5 years ago, that there were some players that as a top 10 quarterback in the league were happy to get a new contract for 20 million a year, maybe 15 to 20 million.
I think it was closer to 30, 35 at that point. But yeah, like this was before we saw it turn into this.
Yeah, this is, I mean, this is a guy that you could arguably say, if we go fantasy ranking wise, he falls in the 11 through 15 ranking in fantasies. You mentioned Baker. Baker's a top 10 guy fantasy wise. And what is his contract going to be? Like,
I would say almost identical. He's a little bit older, so maybe a little bit less, but I think virtually identical.
I would say it's probably going to be virtually identical because he is a better quarterback at that position, not necessarily on a per team basis, but overall, he's looked at as a better quarterback. While the Niners look at Brock Purdy as you're a perfect fit for our offense. Baker's looked at by 30 other teams as, well, you're a pretty good fit for us. So I don't know, man. This is wild to see. I say this every time we have a contract conversation on the show. I am just almost appalled by these numbers and how they do this math, because this is insane. I mean, $950,000 every year for a per game roster bonus and a workout bonus. That's crazy to me. Combined 4.7 million over the life of this contract in just those two bonuses. That's just a crazy thought. When Brock Purdy was coming in, Mr. Irrelevant, and he gets this contract, like, good on you, kid.
Not so irrelevant anymore. And I want to look at 2026 as well, real quick before we jump out of here. Cap hit just under 25 million. Guaranteed salary of 46 million showing right here. So he's getting paid sooner than later too. So he's getting paid, but it's not hurting the team until later. So they did a good job balancing this one out. So you know what? Let us know down in the comments below what you all think of this deal. Did the Niners overpay, underpay? And do you think Brock Purdy should have maybe taken more or taken less? I think when you factor all things in, I think it was the right deal for everybody. I think this one worked out greatly, and no one should be upset at this point. So, you know what? That's what good on
Browns
them
take
both.
notes.
You know what? Browns have their own set of issues right now. They got 5 guys they have to pay, and one of them's moving on now from from Brock Purdy getting paid to someone who wants to get paid in Dallas. Micah Parsons, his deal, he's up for a deal anytime now. The Cowboys not exactly known for paying their guys on time recently, a la Dak and CeeDee the last couple of years. Myles Garrett with a massive contract, I think about $40 million a year extension. Trey Hendrickson looking for an extension. We'll see what that equates to. We've seen TJ Watt is up for an extension soon as well. Lots of money going around to the edge rusher position. Micah Parsons, arguably amongst the most valuable of them all when you factor in the age as well as the dominance he's had. Fifth in sacks since he entered the league in 2021. Absolutely, we've seen the defense with him in there, with him out him. Arguably the best player on the Cowboys. As a former sufferer of Cowboys fandom, what are we thinking? Do you think they bring him back? Well, we expect them to bring him back. My question is, how do you think they go about this? Do they Cowboys it up? Do you think they get it done early? Is this a franchise tag fiasco? How are we feeling about this?
I am thinking that the Cowboys are going to cowboy this up somehow,
Hmm.
and not in the same way they did CD Lamb. Although it might be like CD Lamb,
Hmm.
just as far as really really late. But I just want to real quick top 5 earners at the edge position. Myles Garrett, okay, yeah, he's better than Micah Parsons. Daniil Hunter, better, worse than Micah Parsons.
I would take Micah over him at this point. But Daniil, when he got paid at 27, he had a larger body of work, so I get it. And it was a free agency. They overpay there.
Yeah. Max Crosby, better.
We're gonna call them equal.
It's even. Like if that one feels even to me.
Yeah.
Nick Bosa.
We'll call them relatively equal too.
Yeah, there you go. And then Josh Hines, Allen, I'd still give the edge to Micah.
I give a comfortable edge to Micah, but I get why Josh got that contract.
Okay, so that gives his contract somewhere in the range of, let's say, $34 and $39 million a year.
I would say right in here, like you said. I think he should get more than Hunter, but I think even less than Garrett makes sense. So like 37 and a half, maybe.
I mean, realistically, can we imagine? And what Mike is, 25 years old?
25.
26?
So he is the youngest guy on this list, not named Greg Rousseau, who's well down there.
Yeah, and you see Brian Burns down there as number 6 on this list at 27. He's still going to be younger than Brian Burns. It's, to me, this looks at us as a situation where the Cowboys have 2 options. You pay the man, and you have to pay him long term and do some crazy gymnastics and hope for that contract bump or that money bump in 2028, 2029. Or you have to beg and plead that you're going to get this to maybe be like a year by year merchant thing for him, and he's just going to eventually just be accepted as what it is. And even then, he still makes what, $32 million a year on the franchise tag. If based on this, I believe it would be $32 million a year,
something in that range. Yeah,
because it's usually average of
the top
10, top 5, top 10. Is it
Yeah,
top 5 or top 10?
I think it's the top 5.
Oh, well, that's the top 5. Then he makes 34 million, 35 million a year anyways. So like, it's one of those like, okay, well, you're going to pay him 34 on the franchise tag and catch all the taxes and the dead cap space, or you pay him long-term 37 million a year average. You can weigh that how you need to and still pay him. Like, Dallas shouldn't be able to screw this up, but they've screwed it up before. So it would be no surprise.
So it is based on a combination of the average of the top 5 salaries at the player's position over the past 5 years and 120% of the player's previous salary. So all that factored in, we're probably looking at about that 36, 37-ish million if I had to guess, give or take. So about what you should probably be getting him at this point, if I'm not mistaken. It does say the last 5 years, so that does kind of, so top 5 of the last 5 years, and obviously lower percentages then. So somewhere in that range, but either way.
Yeah, so probably 32, 31, 32 million.
Something very weird in that vicinity, but I feel like it would be understood, all right, you're not getting 40 million a year. You're not getting the Myles Garrett money because a lot of that money was, please don't take back your trade request. Here's a little extra. Please don't leave us. You're our only hope for any viability. And you look at the guarantees, he got almost 89 million, 123 and a half total guaranteed, just absolutely insanity. So I could see him getting maybe close to the 88 million fully guaranteed like Bosa and Garrett got, but then like the average per year, 36, 37. If I'm the Cowboys, you find a way to make it happen. One way or the other, you don't, the way your team is built, it is very heavy at the top, and your depth is basically built on you drafting offensive linemen in the first round, which has been very good for them, and they should keep doing it. But when you do hit on those star players at other positions, you have to keep them around. So I would say get Micah Parsons done as soon as possible. Look at him and be like, look, here's what we're planning. You are 25. We're going to give you a Brock Purdy-esque deal. By the time Dak's off of our books, you'll be getting that Dak money. Because Dak's not going to be, I think he's, a 2-year deal with him left, 3-year deal. It's a shorter term deal with the Cowboys.
He has this year, next year.
Yeah, so you have a little bit more lenience there. Give him a thick signing bonus. Jerry Jones, open up the second pocketbook. You don't have to open up the main one. You don't even have to give him the little black card. Give him like the little blue and white card or something like that. Just that you have plenty of money to hand away. So I think give him like a thick signing bonus up front, then have the salary cap balanced out that way. But we're in agreement. He should probably be the second highest paid defensive player, edge rusher in the game. And I feel
But
like
by the way, Micah will be 27 during the offseason next year. He's 26 right now.
I rest my case on everything we said before, but add 1 year to it. So I like 25, 26, like even more so. He's been around for a while too. I mean, almost I think this is year number 5, and
Yeah,
he's been
yeah.
5th in sacks since he entered the league, and he started as a middle linebacker. Granted, he moved to edge rusher quickly in that rookie year, but my point remains. Hey, that's you don't miss the opportunity. When you have a Micah Parsons, you get it done. So let us know down in the comments below what you all think Micah should sign for. And you know what, if the Cowboys should sign him as well, or who should be looking to
Oh,
make
sorry.
him.
So Dak has 2 more guaranteed years with a potential opt out in 2020 going into the 2028 season.
My point remains, you kick some of Micah Parsons' giant salary number down the road a little bit. You pay him a lot up front for, hey, thank you for playing on a rookie deal and being awesome. Kind of like you do with Brock Purdy to stagger it a little bit because Dak's going to take a big chunk of the cap right now. By the way, another thing with Brock Purdy's contract, about 19% of the cap space is what that takes compared to like when Burrow, Herbert, and those guys signed, it was in the 23 to 25-ish percent of the cap when they signed range. So
Yeah.
another
Right now,
funny
Dak is taking 18.9% or 18.09% of the team's cap for this year.
which is great because I think it was about 20 when he signed it last year. So it only
Yeah.
gets better for there. So it's better to do it earlier than later. Just ask the Bengals
Uh,
and Jamar Chase.
They structured it over the next 3 years to him getting paid. He gets $2 million this year base salary. Next year, $40 million. The year after that, $45 million, and the option year, 2028, $55 million for Dak.
Maybe they should
Base,
structure so
just
Micah
base.
Parsons' salary cap this year is like 50 million, and then after that it's
Yeah,
close. Like they need to.
flip them.
It's very interesting watching the salary gymnastics at work. When you really dig into the numbers, it gets more and more interesting every time. But
I want to know who's the guy that went to school for that. Who's the person that went to school to be the calorie sap genius on every team? Like we give you an app, have you ever been to the Apple Genius bar? You get the Apple Genius shirt and the hanger, like the hang tag, calls you a genius. We need one of those for the NFL finance people because like they need their own genius thing and they better drink free at every bar they go to. That's an NFL bar.
oh, you know, Howie Roseman hasn't paid for a drink in a long time in Philadelphia.
Yeah, well, Howie Roseman better be treating these guys to a contract or all the free drinks, free whatever, Wagyu steak, you name it, they're getting free everything.
You know, he pretty much the city of Philadelphia and him are on good terms right now. At this point, he gets whatever he wants, whenever he wants it, however he wants it. One thing he got going his way too was at the owners' meetings, a certain potential move was on the board to be removed, and it will not be removed as the NFL owners voted on potentially banning the brotherly shove or the tush push, whatever you want to call it. It needed 24 votes to pass. It got 22. There were 10 teams that said no. Everyone has seen the list of the 10 teams that said no to it. Wonderful on them. They've been getting their flowers. We're going to bully those other 22 teams right now because we are going to put them on blast for their tomfoolery. Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Buffalo Bills, Carolina Panthers, Chicago Bears, Cincinnati Bengals, Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, Green Bay Packers, Houston Texans, Indianapolis Colts, Kansas City Chiefs, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Chargers, Los Angeles Rams, Minnesota Vikings, New York Football Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers, San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Washington Commanders. I present to you Charmin Ultrasoft for that. How ridiculous is it? I hate the brotherly shove, the tush push. I hate watching it. It's disgusting. I kind of wish it could have been banned because I hate watching it. But you can't vote to ban it when simply just because you're getting pushed over by it every single time. It's terrible TV, but it's still incredibly effective. And you can't even we joked about this too, and you're probably gonna mention it here. That Commanders NFC Championship game was the moment that Roger Goodell was looking like, "I gotta ban this crap." With them jumping
Yeah.
over the line 4 times. The problem was 3 hours later when the Bills were like 3 of 7 on them against the Chiefs with Josh freaking Allen because they kept trying to go to the left and running directly into Chris Jones' massive tripod leg self, not letting them get anywhere. So at the end of the day, you can't vote to ban something because one team is elite at it. I hate it myself. I'd love to see it not happen anymore, and I think people are gonna get hurt doing it. However, this is not you can't ban it. And more or less too, on top of it, you can't ban it the year after the Eagles win the Super Bowl because then we're gonna have to listen to there and suffer with fans saying we would have repeated if you didn't do it. You wait till next year. If they don't repeat, then you ban it. Common courtesy at this point for the rest of the other 31 fandoms. You do not need to hear that blasphemy for the next 30 decades of our lives.
Yeah. I just got to point out that other than the Eagles themselves, only 2 other NFC teams voted to go against the ban. So they voted in the positive for the ban staying. That's the Saints and Lions, which one, I want to see what Dan Campbell has up his sleeve for their own tush push, which I can just foresee Aiden Hutchinson coming in and taking the snaps.
Penei
Or
Sewell.
I was Penei Sewell leading the way. And the Saints, Kellen Moore has something planned for the tush push. You already can guarantee it. But I do have questions for some of the other teams that voted against the ban as well, namely the Jaguars and Dolphins. Sirs, why are you doing this? Why are you voting to not ban it when your quarterbacks could never run this play?
Because they respect the game. They got decorum, and they got the Florida man vibes going.
Also, for what it's worth, no surprise that no other NFC East team approved the going against the ban. No surprise whatsoever.
No.
But no, as you mentioned, I did say this when we were watching the game. We talked about it on the show afterwards the next week where, it's like, look, this is the play that's going to be the one shown 20 other times that's going to have some sort of impact coming forward with this, whether it's next year or the year after. I didn't think they were going to just try to go for a straight ban of it. I thought it was going to be limited like what they do for some other things, but to just go for a straight up ban, that was wild to me. But yeah, it's no surprise when you abuse something so well. It's no surprise when they take it away. And let's not forget, this was an illegal move 13 years ago.
2005. Thanks, Reggie Bush.
Yeah. Yeah, trust me. As a kid who grew up a Notre Dame fan, I still have hauntings of that night because those are my favorite Kelly Green jerseys that he ruined with the Bush push. But no, in 2012 is when they passed the rule that says you can help somebody forward by pushing them in the back. But yeah, like 2-ply, 4-ply. I'm not going to say this was up there with Ohio legislators, trying to ban the flag planting, but this is come on, guys.
Number 2. We found number 2. Crappy pun intended there.
Yeah, like, man, you guys better have a sponsorship from Charmin. Is all I got to say. Is the NFL doesn't make a great sponsorship, or if the Eagles don't reach out to Charmin or some other brand or Kleenex and talk about the soft nose wipes. Come on, guys, give me a call. I'll help you like do this deal because I don't even need to I just want to see the commercial. You don't have to pay me. Just pay me in like free merch. I'm a free agent fan. So if you pay me anything, I'm going to become a fan of you. But like here, just Eagles, please, dear God, do me a favor and call Kleenex, call Charmin, somebody, and make a commercial that bashes every other team for being soft.
It pushed a lot of people into being fans of the team. That's for sure. Definitely push them in their direction. The last thing
I'd make my commitment right then and there.
Right on the spot. Like that commitment, the hat on everything too. Like it'd be right to a T. I will say with the weirdest part about the whole thing to me is that they tried to basically just ban pushing the player in the back completely. From what I understand, like, so you couldn't have done it there, or you couldn't have done it 10 yards down the field where some of the most exciting plays where the running back or receiver and the safety meet like this. Then you see the big old future offensive lineman of the years come in and push them in those pure chaotic fun plays where it's just the battle of wills down. Why would you want to take that away? At least if you really want to get rid of this, say no doing it behind the line of scrimmage or something along those lines, which I still don't agree with, but like, don't take away those electric moments 20 yards downfield from us either.
If they're doing it for player safety, which is the quote unquote umbrella they put this under as a player safety concern, okay, I agree with taking away all of the pushes in the backs because I agree that downfield ones, and those ones to me are the worst offenders of injuries, especially head injuries, because you have 2 guys stood up and then multiple guys full speed running at them and hitting at Lord knows what angle and bouncing off and running into another person in their head, neck, shoulders, somewhere in that range. And bad things tend to happen. When we see really bad injuries like that, they're usually 5 to 10 yards downfield going for a first down and somebody pushes and there's like, well, somebody just got hit and you see them down on the ground and they're not moving. It's like, those are the things that if you're going to do it for player safety, okay, you got to do it everywhere. Behind the line of scrimmage doesn't bother me as much because everybody's stationary and then you're moving. Whereas
also diving at knees and going low and headbutting each other too.
That's a whole other story.
Like you're dying. You're just picking your death at this point.
Yeah, like, but downfield is like, that's the one that scares me the most from just the standpoint of head injuries. The downfield one scares me way more than the tush push. The tush push is like, all right, look, it's frustrating. You can't really stop it, but all right.
Don't
I
take
got
either
it.
one from me. I want my electric 30-yard down the fields. I want Quentin Nelson pushing Jonathan Taylor 15 yards in the end zone. We want little Deuce Vaughn getting picked up by Tyler Smith and pushed for 13 yards and to score a touchdown. Like
Yeah, like,
I said, don't take away either one of them at this point.
but if you're going to do one, saying if you're going to choose one, you should have chose the downfield one first and then gone after the brotherly band later if you wanted to do this intelligently. Because the first one is like, all right, we can do this under a player safety thing. And then they're like, well, it's a player safety thing, guys. We can't really fight this one. And then, Green Bay gets their wish.
No, they're just weenies about it. Just do a Tampa Bay and draft somebody who's 420 pounds to sneak on this between him and Vita Vea. Build some beef. Get some girth up there.
Both 400-plus pounders on the Bucs, by the way, played quarterback at some point in time in their football career. How stupid is that?
You've seen Vita Vea move in the open field too. You better not fumble that and let him get in space after he stops it. So, I'm glad this didn't get banned, especially now. As much as I hate it, you can't ban it. You don't ban plays.
Yeah.
That's like taking away the Steph Curry 3 because it was ruining the game. It was getting too outrageous. Or you don't ban plays. Could you imagine if they did this in the 2000s when Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were terrorizing NFL defense if they decided to ban the forward pass? That's how ridiculous it sounds at point. No one else could throw as well as they do, so we should stop it. Well, okay, just stop it. It's hard. It sucks. The Eagles are that much better than everybody else. If it was 100% across the board, sure, but we saw Josh Allen, the MVP, go 3 of 7 on them in an AFC Championship game. The same team that the Eagles went 4 for 4 on it 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and it's look, it's a slippery slope to say don't ban plays because the NFL's done it many a times. But I agree with you that this one seemed egregious. This one seemed like, oh, they beat us with it in Brazil. Let's moan and complain about it as they go and win their Super Bowl. Instead of, hey, all 32 teams can do this. The difference is the offensive line coach for the Eagles is one of the best offensive line, if not the best offensive line coaches in the NFL today. And he's teaching these guys through rugby, of all sports, how to manage a scrum and actually move forward while falling down, which is what they're doing, versus getting taken out, which is what happened with the Bills, who do not have a rugby coach teaching them how to do this. Look, guys, you guys get billions of dollars. Get a rugby coach for a couple $100,000. We just saw Brock Purdy's contract. Brock Purdy could pay for the rugby coach if he really, really wants to.
Not to mention, you have 500-pound squatting Jalen Hurts at quarterback, who's just a muscle hamster himself. And then you have Saquon Barkley, this 500-pound squat pushing on top of it. That's a whole lot of force. Not every team can generate that. They're just that good at it. You don't like it. You got to figure out how to stop it. You have multiple off seasons now to figure out. The Chiefs thought they had something with the angle of Chris Jones. It helped against the Bills. The Eagles, not quite so much. Granted, the Eagles didn't really need it in that game. So that was the least of the Chiefs' concerns. However, the NFL defense always find a way. We always talk about it. That's why I always have to be adapted. It's a copycat league, et cetera, et cetera. We've heard every superlative. Just banning the play, especially fresh, just because it's ugly, seems a little dramatic. If we get a flux of major injuries next year, okay, that's one thing. Say 3 quarterbacks get knocked out for the season, offensive linemen start losing knees, et cetera. Now you kind of have a case for it. But right now the case is we don't like how it looks. It looks kind of gross. That's pretty much the case for it at this point.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Saquon and Jalen. Let's not forget A.J. Dillon. That is also can be behind him pushing. Between the 3 of them, about 21 to 2,200 pounds squatting in the gym on a regular basis. So each of them can squat about 600.
The quad father. Or it could be AJ Brown at any given point too. With the power of Chipotle, he will have a whole lot of he'll have a whole lot of gasoline power back there.
He's gonna have a lot of propulsion if it's not gonna be because of muscles, that's for sure.
Either way, that's a whole lot of forward push momentum that they could generate that other teams just can't match. And it's not. The Bills have an elite offensive line. You have an MVP elite quarterback who's the size of a house. Even they are not hitting 100% on it. Even the Eagles didn't hit 100%. We forget 2 years ago in the playoffs, the Buccaneers stopped him on multiple ones at the goal line. This was before they had an extra 400-pounders. When they had one 370-pound Vita Vea. Now yet, so I'm just saying it's an egregious idea and it's even worse timing.
Yeah, but you did see one of the better, and here's people talk about injuries. I will say you saw one of the better stories with the back and forth between the two centers, Dickerson and Jurgens, just last year, where look, one of us is healthy, one of us isn't. We're gonna go run it, but I can't play center on this play, so you're gonna play center, vice versa. And you had just mix matching, which is something that doesn't normally happen at the offensive line position. When you're an offensive lineman, you play your position. You only play your position. You do not flip. You do not move sides. You do not move positions in game, especially like unless you're just that guy that's 6-man. But like a starter doesn't normally move positions, and these guys are literally talking to each other on the sideline. Like, what can you do? What can you do? I can't do anything. All right, bring the backup in. Like, it was crazy to see. So I don't know. It gives you good fun stories too.
Absolutely. Go ahead and drop in the comments below. Let us know what you all think. Should the Tush Push Brotherly Shove be banned? Are the other 22 teams weenies? Or is there something in between that we are missing? But that's going to now transition us into the main event. And for the main event, we are going to head over to the hardwood again for the WNBA. The WNBA has returned with a very, very eventful, not short on dramatics, opening weekend across the board from Phoenix to Indiana and everywhere in between. There was plenty to talk about. Before we get into the tomfoolery, we're going to go and take a moment to highlight some of the good things that happened, like Kelsey Plum dropping over 30 in her debut with the Sparks, and is currently through a couple of games, averaging nearly 28 points a game. Asia Wilson with the Vegas Aces continues to be dominant, giving you 26 and 13 out of the gate. Natasha Cloud with 3 steals per game for the Lynx. Elijah Boston with 3.5 blocks per game. Like, just some of the outrageous numbers. Brianna Stewart continues to be awesome. There's a lot of high-level play coming out early out of gate. Obviously, it's very, very early, so things will categorize back down to the mean. But you can just see the high-level play coming out of the gate that unfortunately did not get quite the notoriety for other reasons. But before we get into that, Kelsey, who in the first couple of games stood out where you're like, yeah, if this continues, she's going to be a problem?
I mean, I think the Liberty are still a problem. You know, you lose players, you rotate them out. By the way, you brought Natasha Cloud in to the New York Liberty. Congratulations, you just made this team even better with her, Brianna Stewart, and Sabrina on that same squad. That is a tough squad to match up with. Reigning champions, they might have an opportunity to go back to back with how good they are. But on the flip side of the country, Kelsey Plum with the Sparks is a hard one to overlook because that Sparks team lacked a spark last year, and I think with her they have it. Also, Cameron Brink will be coming back this year. She's healthy now. Those are all big pieces of that team working. They have a squad in LA. And you've been hoping this is the one thing that when the WNBA was the best in our lifetime, which was the early 2000s, it was LA, it was New York, it was Chicago, it was Minnesota. Those were the big franchises that were leading the way. Well, guess what? New York and LA are still there. They didn't go anywhere, and they maybe got better. And that's what's going to be fun to see is like getting these two tentpole franchises back up and on their feet. I think is going to be really cool to see going forward. I hope that's the two teams that I still get to watch. Obviously, there are central teams in the Midwest. Don't freak out, Midwest people. I'm not discounting what we're about to talk about because this is going to have to be talked about. But for now, just as far as this goes, Asia Wilson's still the best player in the league. Kelsey Plum looks rejuvenated in LA. And New York is still a threat. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck, everybody else. That's probably a good way to put it. But we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off as well, too. The foul heard around the world. Caitlin Clark on Angel Reese. We see the foul from Angel Reese at first. And then afterwards, Caitlin Clark goes in. Get a little bit of a hack on Angel Reese as she goes up. The flop, the end of it. The foul heard around the world that is transcended into wives and kids and everything in between. But I'm just going to talk strictly basketball for this one now that we got a chance to take a peek at it. Hard foul. Not a huge deal. Maybe a touch extra little ugh at the end of it, but a little bit of an overreaction. Some people overreact when they hit the ground, they get fouled. She didn't see it, obviously. We see it from a bird's eye view. Angel Reese just knows she was going up. She was wrapped up and fell on the ground. It probably felt like a tackle. Immediately gets mad. We move on from it. Literally, the fact that we're even talking about this again is just outrageously hilarious in all the worst ways. So it's not a huge deal. It's a foul. That's about the extent of it. Not even really flagrant. The fact everything that's come out after it has just been absolutely insanity. The follow-ups to saying that how do I want to word this? Saying that Caitlin is racist for fouling her was a little bit dramatic when you consider the situation. We've seen the commentators of Ryan Clark, RG3, etc., have gone on a very, very wild tangent out of this one too. This one's
got in some depths.
Like, that's a spider web of its own tomfoolery right there. Like, that's some soap opera stuff right there. Like, that days of our lives as former ESPN and current ESPN commentators going well off the rails. Even on this one, they have not even really talked. Caitlin and Angel have barely talked about it since. There has been obviously the rumor about potentially fans saying things they shouldn't be saying in a very racially inappropriate terms. If that is the case, WNBA, do what you do. Find them, suspend them, send them to the gulag, ban them, whatever you got it, whatever you do. Everyone supports that. That's humanly understandable if you figure that out. Everything else is just very, very dramatic. The fans are going to yell at their teams. I've just asked anybody who's played in the Boston Garden or in Salt Lake City, some of the things I guess said there. That is the
Denver.
unfortunate nature of the business. But I'm just gonna say I think this should have been just a foul and under the bridge, but unfortunately dramatics and on top of more dramatics. And it shows the amount of star power Caitlin Clark especially has, as well as Angel Reese, who has built her own following as well. Basically, people who hate Caitlin Clark like Angel Reese and vice versa. It's very, very unique how they're built out, considering they're both very vastly different players on vastly different tiers, even though they're both awesome, if that makes sense. Angel's a rebounding double-double machine. Think Draymond Green-esque Andre Drummond, like just absolutely menace on the boards and constant putbacks, sometimes her own putbacks. That's another story. Caitlin Clark she has 9, 20, and 10 games in her career, second most in WNBA history. Like for a career, not just like she already has the most career 20 and 10 games, or second most. The most is 10. And she's done in like 40 games compared to I think it's 268. So we're comparing very different tiers here, and the fact that it's turned into such a crazy follow-up outside of basketball is just wild to me. When anyone who's played on a basketball court knows a foul, if it's somebody you don't necessarily like, you get a little pissed. Or in this case, where it's a team that you kind of have a rivalry with, Indiana and Chicago are not that far apart. Indianapolis
Yeah.
and Chicago, you can get there in a day pretty comfortably. There's a little bit of an innate rivalry there. Plus, everything else going back to college on top of it. Overreaction to a foul you didn't like, moved on. Did we even hear from? Did they get into another scuffle the rest of the game? No.
Nope.
Was there another issue? No. All that happened was the fever went ballistic, and that was the end of the game. It's not like this was consistent tension. It was. If SGA got hit like that, then there'd be a lot more. Then it'd be a little bit more complaints. But it wasn't really that much farther off. Like I think this was. You know, it's your turn. I've rambled enough in it, but from a basketball perspective, this was it's asinine. Ass of 10, ass of 11, ass of 37.5.
Yeah, let's provide a little context behind this, right? 20-point deficit at the time. Fever were running away with this. We saw the video. Angel Reese shoves Leah Boston first. That shove had more force in it than anything we saw after that. But doesn't matter because two wrongs don't make a right. That wasn't the foul that was called. Caitlin, obviously seeing that, sees the situation, and she's like, well, I'm not going to give her an easy basket. And she slaps down on the ball while grabbing behind on the back hip, which you're taught to do because it protects the player that you're slapping.
Grab both arms so they can't get an and one, too.
They're not going to get the and one up. They're not going to get it up. Now, I'll go back to what I said with SGA. In today's day and age, flopping is part of the game. You feel a hand on your back hip, coaches teach players, male and female, to fall dramatically. Not saying it wasn't a foul. It was a foul.
Clearly.
Flagrant, I have questions about a flagrant foul. I'm also raised in the 90s to 2000 era where basketball was different.
You ain't believing
Centers,
it ain't fine.
Yeah, centers, forwards, you come out with cuts. I have scars on my arms from cuts that came up in a game that in today's day and age, I would have been on a free throw line 30 some odd times. People would call me a foul merchant. Like this is, and I sucked at basketball, by the way. But this is a situation where you look at, from a purely basketball standpoint, there's frustrations from Angel Reese. You're down by 20. You end up losing this game by nearly 40 points. Your team doesn't even score over 60. This is a woman who has done nothing but win in her collegiate career. And outside of her rookie year in the W, she's won still. And by the way, they didn't have a bad year last year, Chicago. They weren't picking first overall. Think about that for a second. So Angel Reese is showing frustration. I don't blame her for a hard foul and getting up and wanting to have some words because my mind, you're up by 20. Why are you fouling me like that? Let me get this one. Like, why are you doing that? Like, you could have hurt me. Keeping the flap out of it, whatever. it doesn't take away from the fact that from the moment of the foul, Caitlin Clark walks away. She doesn't care. Like, she's like, I made the foul. I know I fouled her. I'm walking away. There was nothing demonstrative from one side, from her side. Teammates stepped in. Everything looked clean. Cool. Wash it. It's a hard foul. If you want to call a flagrant, call a flagrant. That's fine. Whatever. We'll deal with that afterwards. Why is it that this game, despite all of that, gets thrown under the microscope as it's because she's white, she gets away with that foul, or it's because she's a black girl, she's going to react? No, that's not what this is. People aren't looking at the circumstance of the game. And don't even get me started on Cheryl Swoops, on you mentioned Ryan Clark, on RG3. But these are main voices. I love watching the pivot. I love listening to RG3. I love listening to Cheryl Swoops talk basketball. But you know what I don't love is I don't love turning it on and seeing all of a sudden it turns into something that it's not. This is no longer about basketball in the mainstream media. This is far beyond just basketball anymore. And both Caitlin and Angel Reese are victims of this going beyond basketball. Do they both kind of play into it in their own right? Sure. Their media teams definitely play into it. There's no doubt about it. In today's market, you have to. But in the grand scheme of it, the media is taking away the one thing these two women love to do, which is play basketball. That's what their life centers around. And every time a foul like this happens, we see a clash between these two. And these two have always been pitted against each other, going back to Iowa, Maryland, then Iowa, LSU, and now again, Indiana and Chicago. Like, these two are head-to-head constantly. So it's not a surprise that you're going to continue to see these type of flare-ups between the two, because so far, Angel Reese has tended to get the better. Or sorry, Caitlin has tended to get the better of Angel Reese in the W. In college, it was flipped. Angel Reese had the better of Caitlin, and that's always going to be what it is. That's not going to go away. History is never going to die, but these two have put it on the court, and they keep it on the court. They haven't talked about it other than to make comments in the press game, in the press conference afterwards, because they're asked. They're not going out of the way to say anything. Maybe I'm wrong.
It feels like it's not them, but the people covering it are obsessed with this being like Larry and Magic, thinking like, that's what saved the NBA. Maybe this no, that's different. You're talking a 60-year gap, 40-year gap at this point. History is kind of like poetry. It rhymes, but it doesn't repeat directly. Like they could be the two contracting superstars who met in college, then followed each other to the NBA and consistently had battles, etc. But you don't have to take everything else that was not correlated to it. Keep it strictly basketball, and you have a double-double machine, which in the WNBA is not exactly all that common. There's like her, Asia Wilson, and a couple of others here or there. And then we have Caitlin Clark, who everyone knows how amazing she is. She's already the MVP front runner.
Tied for the most triple doubles in league history, and she did it in 50 games.
Exactly. Like, we already know she's a transit. Like, she's the one. That's the downside about a fledgling sports organization that is starting on the rise. Saw it with the UFC multiple times too. People who don't have a history of sports or understanding sports, they come into it and then they immediately bring other situations into it. Like, I saw the thing about Caitlin Clark needs to be investigated for asking her to go back in the game to get her triple double. Their future money depends on their stats. Like, they know if I can say, hey, I got these triple doubles, I get paid. That's smart. It's something to put on it's also just fun. Like, you're like, okay, I'm a rebound away. Let me go get that board real quick. It's not a gambling investigation necessary. Like, that's
like, they play with 9 and 10 people on the roster that are dressed. Like, come on, there's not 30 deep on a WNBA roster. It's crazy to think that.
And besides, she comes off and then goes back in to get a rebound. Like, that's not damaging the game. That's not suspend her for gambling because her boy David Portnoy bet on it. No, you're forcing correlations that aren't there. That's not. We remember the joke about Steven Adams used to hold people so Russell Westbrook could get his rebounds and get his triple doubles. The jokes about that for multiple years. I say jokes, and then your face says them. What I mean about you.
Steven Adams loves to hug people. Is all I'm gonna say.
And he did kind of admit sometimes he box other people outside of Russ get through. Point is, you're overlooking things that are common in the history of sports, but not common in this flexion sport to newer fans, which is okay, but you don't have to be so loud about it.
Yeah, everybody who watches sports always wants a good guy and a bad guy. There's always a LeBron Kobe. There's always a Kobe MJ. There's always an MJ Shaq Kobe. You mentioned Magic and Bird. You can go down the history of the NBA, but there's in every sport. McGuire, Sosa. Oh, by the way, neither won an MVP. That was Barry Bonds. guess what happened in the W last year? You had Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, but neither won the MVP or neither won the title.
I don't know about
It's one of those things where you see it every time. You see it in soccer. You see Messi, Ronaldo. You see Ronaldinho. You see Beckham. You see all these players historically. Ronaldo, like original R9. Like you have historically always put one player up against another. And in reality, you can't do that in basketball more so than every other sport because so many players in basketball are very different. You should never put a center up against a forward. You should never put a forward up against a guard. You should never put a shooting guard up against a point guard because those two are supposed to do two different things. Maybe you could do a small forward, power forward, but again, supposed to do two different things.
Supposed to.
Yeah, supposed to. But like in general, you should never try to compare these players who play completely different positions in completely different styles. Angel Reese has always been a rebounder. She's always been a putback artist, especially the offensive side. She loves getting offensive rebounds. I mean, she is one of the most talented offensive rebounders I've ever seen, men or women. And just, I don't care if she's getting her own rebounds. I'll joke about it because it's funny to see on TV because it's a professional sport and it's something you see in high school. But she's that dominant, she can do that, which should tell you a lot about how she plays in basketball, which is why I hate the disrespect. And I said this before. When I talk Caitlin Clark, you have to give Angel Reese her roses as well. Just like every time you talk Angel Reese, you have to give Caitlin Clark her roses because both are going to be put up against each other constantly. And it's something we just have to deal with. We just can't make it into something more than basketball. And right now, everything seems to be putting it to more than basketball in the media. And that's the frustrating part of all of this is in the game, man, yeah, it was a 40-point blowout, but I watched every minute of it.
So you can say something about either individual player without it having beyond basketball ramifications too. You could say, wow, she stinks because she shoots 30% in all of okay, cool. You say Caitlin Clark sucks because she jacks up threes and she doesn't defend or whatever. Okay, that's basketball related stuff. Or, oh, I hate her, she's whiny, or I hate her, she's arrogant. Whatever you might want to say about them, that doesn't have to go beyond that. It's the same thing. Like people hate people in sports. Like I guarantee Patriots fans despise Peyton Manning and all of his foreheads. Just like I know Colts fans hate Tom Brady and his clearly medically enhanced face over the years because that transformation doesn't occur in nature. So on and so forth. The goal is to keep it cordial. Unfortunately, not everybody does. We get it. And I think the problem is the people with the loudest voice need to find a way to keep it as close to the game as they can because it's going to be a detriment to the game in the long run. A game that is finally starting to get its legs, and now it's like it's shooting itself in the foot. Like, no, we don't want to. Like, this should be about propelling the game forward, not finding ways to plateau it. Because at the end of the day, the game's it's still on the rise, but it's not there yet. It's got a long ways to go. We're not going to get into the numbers and being basically subsidized by the NBA. We won't go dive into that. Everyone can find out all that stuff.
It's
let it grow. Just let it grow. Like give it a chance at this point. Don't shoot it in the foot.
You know, the last thing I'll say about this is this. The outside stuff, there's a time and place for all of that, but it should never take away from the athletes.
When that stuff is prevalent, that's when it should be brought to the forefront. In this situation where it makes no sense, like you said.
This is the problem that we're having is this is taking away from what Angel Reese does and taking away from what Caitlin Clark does. And we talked about this last year. Just keep that in mind anytime anybody has this conversation because you can't take away from the athletes. And right now, former athletes are taking away from current potential superstars. And that's an embarrassment to alumni of any pro sport.
What I will add to that to round it out to is if there was issues with fans, because I know there is a lot of talk about certain fans of certain players are the issue. Like it's not even her, it's her fans, blah, blah. We joked about this with the LeBron fans growing up, the Steph fans, et cetera, et cetera. Like they're fine as their fans that I hate, so on and so forth. The joke about Cowboys fans, Yankees fans, Lakers fans, et cetera. That's one thing. And any fan who says anything out of line, we already talked about, send them to the gulag, send them whatever you got to do with them. That's their job. Take care of that. Fully understand. No one supports that. But tying everything, you can't tie that to the player. It's not her fault for existing. It's the same way, in theory, like Dak Prescott shouldn't be blamed for Cowboys fans. Dak should be blamed for throwing bad interceptions in playoff games, which he is. You can't blame LeBron for his fans being kind of obnoxious. You could blame LeBron for, flailing all over the place and shooting weirdly bad from the free throw line at later in his career compared to 80% in Miami, then after that downhill, so on and so forth. You could blame Shaq's fans for being obnoxious, but you could blame Shaq for his free throws. The fact that at 30 years old, he's still shooting awkwardly with one hand like that with all that money, but you can't blame him for his fans. So that's kind of that's where I'll draw the line there. But we've dove in this one plenty of times. We've covered all different angles of it. Let us know down below what you all think about this conversation. If you're just ready to move on and watch some basketball too, because
Oh, by the
that's
way,
it.
this is just one thing with Angel. Just last thing. Who is her shooting coach? Because I have questions for you, sir. How did you ruin her shot from college to the pros?
Is this like a Mikal Fultz situation?
It feels like it, man. I don't know how she was easily able to shoot close to 60-70% in college, and now in the pros, she's like not able to hit a layup sometimes. It's like, what are we doing?
The one thing she gets credit for that she deserves is offensive rebounding is about hustling, and no one hustles quite like her, so that needs to be commended. But one thing that's going to help is in crunch time, we need an extra basket. That offensive rebounding will come in handy. So that's going to take us now into crunch time. And this is where we like to do a little rant recaps for everything like that. And well, we just had our own nice little rant thing. So I'm going to keep the strings going. We're going to go to the octagon here. I'm going to have a very short, sweet, to the point UFC heavyweight title. Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall. You have an interim champion and an actual champion. The obvious answer is they should fight each other. Jon clearly does not want to fight Tom Aspinall. Every time it's brought up to, he's like, man, I'm living my best life. I don't need to. I'm monetizing my brand. He's going off on his very awkward Twitter situations. I told the UFC my plans. I don't know why they haven't told you. If he is running laps around that bush, that you can beat around the bush, eat around the bush, whatever adjective you want to use. He is flying around that bush right now. He doesn't want to fight him. You don't have to make him. He doesn't have to. His career is set in stone at this point. UFC, I need you to go to the store, buy a ball sack, and attach it and start using it. And you have and take the title off of him. Give Tom Aspinall the undisputed belt. Let that title move on. Jon Jones is a household name. If he wants to come back and fight for the belt, he can. He could fight Aspinall. Then that if he beats him, that's another thing on his legacy as a 2-time heavyweight champion. So everybody wins if he comes back. If he decides he doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall, which seems to be the case. So be it. Let the division move on. Let it be. The division needs to be healthy. It needs to move. It's not healthy right now. It's a catastrophe. Tom Aspinall has an incredible amount of potential. He has the shortest average fight time in UFC history, like 2.5 minutes. Like right now, you are shelving that at 32 years old. We've wasted like a year since we last saw him and now they're talking about letting him defend an interim title. That's the worst sentence I've heard since gluten-free cracker. At this point, just take the title off of Jones if he doesn't want to compete right now. Let Tom Aspinall fight, move forward. They already should have fought ahead of time, but they gave him the Stipe fight because that's when he wanted as a legacy spot. So UFC, Jon Jones clearly does not want to fight, at least not anytime soon, by everything he has said. Just take the title. You are the organization. You should. It's time to start cracking down on everybody. You need to say, if you're not going to fight, this is our title. We're taking it off of you. It's that simple. Jon has even said, do I look like someone who cares about getting stripped? At this point, he is more or less taunting the UFC. Go ahead and do something. Which, all the power to him. Go and do what you want. The UFC is not exactly known for the most employee-friendly practices over their history. So, at this point, Jon, keep doing what you're doing. UFC, I don't blame you at all, Jon. UFC, I blame you 100% completely. Go to somewhere. Go to the doctor's office. Borrow some balls. Sack up and get this heavyweight division moving again. Get Tom Aspinall back in the octagon.
I like it. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my laughter out of that one when you like just grab some balls and get it together.
Well, something's happened to the ones that they've had. They've been surgically removed, so you need to go borrow some. Like this would never fly back in the day. I don't know what is going on. Gone woke on us.
Yeah. Well, at least you know what. While you're talking about guys needing to grab their balls, there's a group of guys that are getting recognized for putting their balls out there and putting it all on the table, if you will. The NFL offensive linemen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited about this. Offensive linemen are finally getting a postseason award. And what does that mean? Well, it means not only will you get a rushing title, not only will you get a passing title, you will get now the Protector of the Year. I love that the fact that the NFL Executive VP of Football Operations, Troy Vincent, gave credit to a current offensive lineman and a retired offensive lineman, and Deion Dawkins being the current, Andrew Whitworth being the retired, for a conversation they had in the offseason where they talked about giving an award to NFL linemen, making it the NFL Shield. And guess what the trophy is, ladies and gentlemen? It is an NFL Shield, and it looks great. It looks fantastic. History was made is what Dawkins tweeted out. Andrew Whitworth, I think, had one of the better quotes about this as well. It says, "It's time the men who lead, protect, and never ask for credit are recognized as the backbone of this game." That's what the NFL needs to do. This is the offensive line we're talking about. It's fantastic. We already have merch plans coming out for that, by the way. Don't worry. As an offensive lineman at heart, still former, you know what? It sticks with me. and I'm never gonna let it go. So there will be some fun merch coming out. Be sure to stay tuned for that as well. But dude, I'm so excited about this award. This one is like, this is the best thing that came out of the Wednesday meetings for sure.
This is easily my favorite thing that I have heard this entire month, and I wanna add on to that too. Some of the early favorites, there aren't betting odds yet that I've been able to find, but some early favorites are Penei Sewell, Christian Darrisaw, Tristan Wirfs, and Trent Williams for tackles. Interior offensive line, Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney, and none other than your boy, Quinn Miners, among some of the
Quinn,
early favorites, which they picked those basically off of the All-Pro team since those are the 3 All-Pros. But still, that's a this is gonna be very, very interesting too because this is gonna be a lot of discourse, and I'm all for it. Offensive linemen need more discourse at this point. It's like,
yeah,
"Oh, why did he get that? We know that's a team offensive line that's great. He just got it because he's the best offensive lineman on the best offensive line. This guy's an outstanding offensive lineman, the rest of them just suck." It's gonna be the discourse is gonna be elite, I can't wait, or he's only good because Saquon Barkley's running behind him. It's
yeah.
and then the other people are like, "Saquon's only good because he's running behind Jordan Mailata." So, I'm excited we get offensive lineman discourse with hardware on the line. I can't wait. It's gonna be like the NBA MVP, and I can't wait.
You know what sucks about this though, and there is a downside to all of this. They're not going to backhand these awards out. They're not going to hand these awards back in previous years. So there's Jason Kelsey. I'm sorry, you're never going to have one of these awards. Probably one of the
Zach
centers
Martin.
that maybe deserved it.
Zach Martin, unfortunately.
Yeah, Zach Martin, Villanueva at times maybe deserved it. There's
Jonathan
some
Ogden,
all-time greats. Yeah, Jonathan Ogden.
Walter Jones. Like, we can go way down
Oh
the
yeah,
list here.
yeah. We can go way back, and none of these guys are going to get one of these awards, which sucks. So maybe it does tarnish a little bit of their legacy potentially down the road because you will start getting players earning this award in a year. And again, contracts are going to have some sort of incentive for this now. So now you need offensive linemen not, I don't want to say taking plays off or taking games off in a down season, but you're going to see offensive linemen at a level we haven't seen offensive linemen at maybe in a little while, despite being some of the best offensive linemen we've ever seen. I think we're going to see some of the guys that maybe are mid-tier step up to being even better than they ever were. Just because I think if there's anything tied to this financially, that speaks a lot to guys, and especially offensive linemen. They don't necessarily get paid that much in comparison to everybody else. They are pretty low on the contract totem pole. If I'm not mistaken, if outside of a left tackle, your guards don't get as much money as they should. And now
I'm gonna say I think this is gonna make those great offensive linemen and great offensive lines even more elite as they're competing for it. I don't think it's gonna help for the bottom tiers, unfortunately, because like even if you're a Quentin Nelson on a 4-win team, you're not gonna get that award compared to like Deion Dawkins on a Bills team that goes 13-4 and has 2,000 rushing yards. However, I think it is going to make those awesome offensive lines that much better as they are all going to be competing for that.
yeah. Oh, and finally, people will recognize the greatness that is Quinn Miners and that tummy.
Oh, we already know. Like this has been a 4-year running thing. Like real recognizes real. And Quinn Miners is a
Dude,
real one.
he was on my big board, my top 50 big board, and it looks like the best big board I've ever done.
He's on my top 50 big board too. Like the OG, the original.
Yeah.
And it was all for the belly. And then you watch him play, and it's like well earned. Absolutely
Dude,
well earned.
the belly and the dreads. That was the whole reason. The Canadian, the man out of Wisconsin Whitewater, the Canadian himself.
Absolutely. So let us know too down below who you think is going to win the inaugural Protector of the Year. Who's going to be the very first? Who's going to have the mantle of the very first one of the year? I cannot wait. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be watching this all season too. Another award race.
Oh, this might be a tracker we do weekly.
Like this is going to be something to watch out for. But thank you all so much for joining us this week. We appreciate you all so much. We'll see you all again next week.